is also there. He can start, and then the last will take the question answers session. Okay, the last 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
So I,
And
I so I introduce Omkar only, right?
yes, yes, you can only introduce Omkar, sir. Okay. Meanwhile, when he finished, then he can hand over to Ishan and Rudra. Then they can introduce themselves and just brief it about.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get started. I think welcome everyone to this session on careers in law. Just to briefly introduce myself, I'm Dr. Anand Lakshmanan from Dheya. I'm one of the mentors in Dheya. I'm going to introduce our eminent speaker for this session, Mr. Omkar Kanbarkar. Omkar is actually an independent attorney based out of Pune. He did his bachelor's in law from the Law College in Pune in 2006, and then later on went on to do his master's in law from NUS in Singapore. Where he specialized in corporate and financial services. He has been having a lot of varied experiences in the legal world. He started off with Global Law Alliance as a foreign legal advisor, focusing on funds, taxations, and corporate litigations. And later on, he has been an independent attorney for the past 14, 15 years, where he has actually focused on being a legal consultant to business and enterprises on a lot of variety of areas in law. So he's probably the most apt person for us to guide us through the session today on what are the various options that is there in this area and how to proceed for a career in law. Welcome, sir. Welcome, Mr. Omkar Kandarkar, to this session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Dheya for inviting me to this wonderful webinar this evening. And I believe, as far as law is concerned now, the scenario had vastly changed over the last 20 years. Because I started doing my law, it was 20 years ago. And the career guidance in law is very necessary because law is no more what people think it is. So generally, the people have impression about law what they get from movies or what they hear from people, their friends, their family. So typically, yes, some part of law is what people perceive to be, but there are a lot of new avenues which have opened up. For example, one of our panelists here, Mr. Rudra, is working in a law firm, as I understand. So, which is the non-litigation part of the law that I understand. We will come to that. See, the thing is, this profession itself is very old. Now, in India, at least, it has a history even before the British came and they started ruling us because there used to be this profession in different form. Ever since the British came, then there was this formal legal system, and then there were lawyers, there were judges, and it is gone. So it's a very noble profession. When someone who studies law, it gives the person a very good view of the society, the polity, and how the world works basically. Because as a lawyer, you need to know the laws, the constitution, everything, how the society works, how a lot of thing happens in around you. So this is, for no reason it's not called noble profession. It is. Uh, One can, there are a lot of examples. If we see some of them, it will sound quite cliche, but some of our founding fathers and freedom fighters were lawyers. Mahatma Gandhi was a lawyer. Nehru was a lawyer. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was a lawyer. And even in the recent times, we can see a lot of lawyers around who are doing a lot of good work for the society, bringing about social change. Not just that, but it is also a good career opportunity. So, if you see, I guess even today, now the law it itself, what I have done is I have, for the purpose of this session, I have crudely divided the law in terms of the career guidance in two parts: litigation and non litigation. See, the thing is, whatever people see in the movies, that the people with the black coats arguing in the court, or people generally have seen with the people with the black coats, bands arguing in the court, judges. That is the litigation part of the law. And most of the lawyers in the country, more than 90% of the lawyers in the country, are in litigation. So there is a small minority which practices non-litigation. Then there are reasons for that. I will come to it. So, what is litigation? Typically, a litigation lawyer, he goes to court, appears before judges, presents the arguments, handles his own clients. Most of the times, there are litigation firms as well, and preparation of documents at the end of the day. This kind of stuff is litigation work. A non-litigation typical lawyer typically doesn't go to court, at least 98% of the times. So they're mostly into preparing documentation and negotiations at a times, stuff like that. Have you got any questions at this point, Mr. Anand sir?
So a quick question from my side. I think it's interesting to know about the distinction between litigation and non-litigation.
Yes, sir.
From a career perspective, to approach these areas, is there a way to actually differentiate it? Should people take different avenues for any of these areas, or is it a single thing?
Those people, I would say, yes. So those people who are at the before the start of their careers in law, if they're taking guidance, they're doing the perfect thing, they're doing the right thing. Because the thing is, which part of the career is good, whether the litigation or non-litigation. In litigation, again, there are many fields. In non-litigation, there are many fields. Which part one should choose? It all depends on the person, where the person comes from, their innate abilities. Then there are a lot of things that surrounds it. So, career-wise, if we want to speak, I will tell you why law as a career is good. Number one, it has no retirement age. So, one, if I'm not saying the software engineering bad or engineering general is bad, it's a good career as well. But then the thing is, you will rarely find people employed beyond 58 or 16 companies, unless they are in senior managerial positions. But you will always find lawyers practicing up to the age of 60. The state of the economy really doesn't affect this profession because there are always disputes among the people. So this profession keeps on going, no matter how the economy is, no matter how the, and simultaneously we can also keep helping people during work or profession, whatever. So that is there. How one can go about getting into this profession is, first of all, selection of law school is very important. Which law school you go to, because there are a couple of really good law schools in India. There is NLS in Bangalore, there is Nalsar. There are a lot of good law schools in India. Now, just because you end up in a good law school doesn't mean you have a promising career in law. It has nothing to do that. First of all, a person should decide that what part of law they want to work into. If someone wants to go into litigation, then it's best they identify and try to get into a law school which will help them from the litigation point of view. So,
Sir, sorry. Let me interrupt you here. Sorry about it.
yes, sir.
If we can take a step back, is there
Yes.
any specific proficiency or course or subject that they should be that students should normally be good at, which will enable them to law?
First of all, I believe this is my opinion. The Some commando or English is expected. At the
Right.
litigation level, it can be done a bit, but one should be really ready for hard work because see, this profession is taxing. It takes a lot of hard work to be in this profession, to survive in this profession, and I think no other profession is exception to this. Why should be the law, right? And non-litigation part of it is even more. How do I say? It requires even more hard work to be in. I guess the co-panelist here will agree to that. And there are some other traits like interpersonal skills, dealing with people generally. Because in litigation, if someone wants to go in litigation, they need to be people person, social, active in society. Because remember, that's how you get your clients from.
Right.
There are some of these traits, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So
Yeah, I
yeah,
think it explains.
yeah. So getting into law school, you should get into the right law school. Now, someone gets into a one of the best law schools in the country, and their target is to become a litigation lawyer, say at Bombay High Court or some high court or some court situated in wherever they come from. And this base law school basically teaches the students or they will teach you everything, but the whole environment there is which nurtures people students in such a way that they are ready for non-litigation work. So in the end, going to that law school and coming back to whichever your hometown is and practicing litigation, there is nothing wrong in it. Such law schools have produced great talents in litigation field, but then it becomes unnecessary. So if you're going in a litigation field and you're practicing in the local district court or the high court or whichever court you want to, it's best you choose a college which is where the court is situated, so that you can study in the court, then you can intern with some lawyer. One thing that I would like to, maybe I'm doing this prematurely, but one thing that I want to emphasize here is that interning with a senior lawyer or in a law firm is very important, because that's where you get practical perspective of the profession. Because once your law studies are over, you have to start working either in a law firm or with some senior advocate and then your own profession. But then the interning makes you ready for that part. So someone who hasn't interned at all and you have interned for all your 5 years or 3 years, whichever you course opt for, then it puts you on a higher pedestal than someone who has not interned. Okay, again in law there are two courses. The first course is after graduation, which is 3 years course, and the second course is 5 years course, which is after 12th. So I believe most of the students who are at the webinar right now are the 12th students. So this 5 years course basically saves 1 year, because if we the traditional law course used to be one does the graduation, so minimum graduation is for 3 years, then 3 years of law, so it's total 6 years. What the 5 years course does is it basically saves you the 1 year, which otherwise would have been spent on the graduation. So in the 5 years course, after the completion of 3 years, most of the universities give some degree. So for example, I studied from Pune University. Pune University back then it was known as Pune University. So it gave me some degree called BSL, Bachelor of Social Laws. Many other degrees, there is Symbiosis. I believe it is Symbiosis and Bharati Vidyapeeth and some other colleges, some deemed universities, they give degrees like BBA, Bachelor of Business Administration, and this is done with some purpose. So at the end of the 3 years, if they get a degree and they decide to say appear for competitive examinations or some other career where the minimum degree is required, so they can do that. That's why these degrees are given. Now, this is how the courses are structured. In the 5 years, basically covers some lot of enactment statutes. But see, remember, the whole 5 years or the 3 years will theoretically prepare you for the profession. Practice,
Right.
there is, see, the thing is, we call it practice for not for no reason, because the practice, see, the profession of lawyer is called practicing. We practice in the courts. It is called for no reason because it is the real learning, the practical learning starts upon after one enters into the profession. So that's why I'm saying that on the one hand, if you are studying your law, on the other hand, you should intern. So that's my big advice to students. Law college, see, if you want to get into a career, if you want to work in some big law firm, some well-known law firm, then it's best you get into one of the law schools where the teaching is oriented to serve the non-litigation, the needs of a non-litigation lawyer. So then one should get into such law firms, the ones, law schools, the law universities. That's my opinion. Now, this is at the graduation level. Should I go about the LLMs and the higher education, or at this point of time, I think we should limit it to the bachelor degree, sir?
Yeah, but maybe you can just touch upon one point there, Omkar, on what actually do you think should be a motivator for people going to masters? Like, is there a reason for going for an LLM, or like should they plan for it, or should they not plan for it?
A lot of people can have different reasons for going to LLM. Okay. First of all, merely doing LLM isn't going to help anybody professionally. I will be very blunt and honest about it, but it helps also in some reason. How? The thing is, Indian LLM degrees are very conventional, very conservative in their approach. So for example, see, the local universities do not offer LLM in the various new subjects, unconventional subjects like technology or financial laws. So if one wants to study in such streams, one wants to acquire more knowledge in such streams, and if they want to work in for whatever they have studied in that stream, then foreign LLMs are advisable. But then again, it depends upon which law university, which universities you are going to, where you are doing it. So there has to be a clear cut plan right at the beginning, at the inception of what you want to do in the future,
Exactly.
before you take any education, whether it is law or LLM or whatever. That's my opinion about this.
Yeah, very good point. I have another query in this slightly different thing. So if you just suggested that foreign degrees for LLM makes better sense in some of these cases, specialization
Yeah,
particularly.
yeah, yeah.
So will it not be a problem once you study there and come back, because the laws might be different, and how do you adapt to that?
Okay, now that's a very good question. See, the thing is, even the foreign LLBs of some countries are recognized in India. For example, if one is to study the LLB in, suppose, a country like United Kingdom, so Bar Council of India recognizes it. To the best of my knowledge, one of the sitting Supreme Court judges has done his law even from the US, if I'm not wrong. So I guess I don't know if there is some bridging exam here in India, but AIB, there is this exam called AIB, All India Bar Exam Entrance. It was not there when I passed the law, but it is there now. So what happens is, everyone who has graduated in India or not, they have to give this exam to get license from the Bar Council of India and the state bar, respective state bar councils, to start practice in India. LLM, it doesn't affect much. It is because, see, minimum requirement for practicing in India is LLB from a recognized university by the Bar Council of India. Bar Council of India is the governing body of all the legal framework, I will say, in India. So minimum requirement is LLB. After that, if one does LLM abroad or PhDs abroad or some kind of certification abroad, it doesn't matter. The only caveat is this. See what happens. There is a concept called common law in Indian law and internationally as well. So what is the common law? Common law is the law which is followed by England and all those countries which were ruled by England.
Okay.
So England ruled Britain ruled India, Britain ruled Singapore, Britain ruled some of the countries. So laws in such countries are similar. So
Okay.
for example, I did my masters from National University of Singapore. Now Singapore has the same common laws that it is a common law country that the England has. Until 1996 they were part of the Privy Council and so on. So the laws, what I studied, they were similar to the Indian laws or similar to the British laws. If I would have gone to some fancy country like, say, Ukraine, then that wouldn't really help me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a good point actually. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So that is there. So how is litigation like? I will elaborate on that. Litigation is typically see, it's not a okay. I don't know if I would be right in saying that it's not a business. Definitely not, because Indian laws do not call practicing law a business. But litigation is somewhere you're on your own. Mostly, if you're practicing on your own as an independent lawyer, working in firm is a different thing, but then you have to get your own clients, you have to advise your own clients, and then appear in the courts, put the case before the court. So it's something. So litigation typically is not 10 to 5 jobs, nor is working in a non-litigation law firm. So typically a litigation lawyer's day starts at the 9 o'clock or 9:30 in the morning, sometimes even before that, depending upon the lawyer to lawyer, chamber to chamber, how the work is. And then typically the courts start around 10:30, 11 o'clock. Courts end at around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And then after the court work is over, sometimes they meet clients in the court, or sometimes after they come back, then they have meetings with the lawyers. And typically drafting of the documents, all this happens simultaneously. The work ends at around 9, 9:30. Sometimes earlier, sometimes later, depending upon the severity for. That's how a day of litigation lawyer is. And yes, work can be hectic. It can be hectic. There can be a lot of physical running around in terms of going to court, going to this office, going to that office, going to this court, that court, and that can happen. With the non-litigation part of the work, in the typically people who are working in say corporate firms. Now, I worked with corporate firm before. They were who focus mainly in financial services. We did not have to do much of a running around. Most of the lawyers who are working in firms, the non-litigation part of the firms don't do much of a running around. And there are not just firms. Remember, even the people who are into conveyancing practice, in Pune it is a big thing. In Bombay it is also there. What they do is like they draft the documents like sale leads and all. They get it registered before the local registration office. Many of them do not ever appear in the court. So if someone thinks that law is only appearing in the court and I can't do that for a variety of reasons, well, you can do this. You can get into the non-litigation part of the work, and it is also quite rewarding. I mean, people make great money out there, even in the non-litigation part of the profession. So they typically don't do this running around. When they have a lot of documentation, heavy documentation, agreements typically run in hundreds of pages. There are a lot of other documentations to be done, advices to be. Most of your clients are going to be companies, and this is there. So they work from typically work hours are quite hectic depending on which stream of the. So for example, if it is a capital market is very heavy. Sometimes the company is going for IPO, initial public offering. It is going public. Then I have heard even stories of lawyers who don't sleep for two nights at all. They're working continuously, and unless the company gets listed on the stock market, there is this bell which is ranks in the stock market. So that's how it is. So it can be hectic, yes, but it is rewarding on a lot of levels. One thing I want to mention is litigation. Being a little lawyer, either in litigation or non-litigation, it enhances your public stature. I have personally experienced it. So at some point, people generally, contact you for legal advices, your friends, your family, everyone, and they have they get some personal problem or some problem in the profession, and you're the first they will reach out to for advice. And so it's a matter of respect, to be a lawyer in this being in this profession.
So
That's about.
one thing I understand is that almost every lawyer, will necessarily have a home office. So this concept of work from home, which is something which is being spoken of now in this COVID scenario, is a very normal thing for a lawyer. Am I right?
Uh, yeah, I mean, people also work from home and offices even in the usual course. So it's not very foreign thing it's not very different thing. I mean, I myself have been working from home ever since the drafting documents. So yeah, it is there. It is not a very foreign concept. Yes.
Right. So it's basically managing your professional and personal thing. That's a very it's a
At the times it becomes tricky at the times.
yeah.
Yes. 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 So the work environments, I will tell you how working in litigation field is like. It is like I just mentioned. It is going to court. So once you start going to court, knowing theoretical law, what you're taught in law school is not enough. I guess these days they have different. There are different lot of certificate programs offered by very institutes. The diplomas as well are there, which teach about the specializations in law, like cyber diploma in cyber law, taxation, and all that. It is there, but actual practicing. So in court, once one goes to court, so there are one thing I want to mention is see litigation itself is not a very uniform field. There are some people who practice exclusively in Supreme Court. I have seen such people. I have been there. They exclusively practice in Supreme Court. There are some people who exclusively practice in high courts. Some people who exclusively practice in suppose there is something called debts recovery tribunal, which is basically related to banking. Some people exclusively practice before the income tax tribunal, other there are tribunals. So yes, people dedicate their practice. In courts, typically you need to when there are frequent appearances, and it's quite it's not a mechanical job, definitely not. So one needs to know how to appear before to present their case before the court, and all these things are come by experience. How to handle the court staff, very important thing. Anybody who is practicing in the court would know it, but it comes with the experience. So that is there. And working in not litigation firm is, I, in my humble opinion, it is like working in any other work environment. A very it's a pressurized work environment. Let me be honest about it. So there is going to be a boss. There are going to be co-workers. Work pressure is there, and a lot of things that come around. So one should, if one wants to go in non-litigation in a firm culture, one should be ready for stress that comes with it. And the stress only goes on increasing from the lower levels to higher levels. Typically, in litigation profession, the one enters, he's a junior lawyer. That's what we call the junior lawyer. He's working with the senior. Then, after a few years, typically 3 or 5 years of being in litigation, one learns about the court procedures, how to draft the documents, and everything. Then they start their own independent practice. After a couple of 10, 15 years of practice or 20 years of practice, they become senior in the profession. So in High Court and Supreme Court, typically they have this practice of something called senior counsels. So counsels are briefed by the junior advocates. That's how it goes in the non-litigation profession. In the firm culture, typically people join as associates or junior associates, depending upon the size of the firm, how the culture of the firm is. Then the associates are promoted to senior associates, law managers, senior law managers, then junior partners, the corporate partners, equity partners. That is how the career progression is. So at the end of their careers, they are somewhere, either corporate partners or senior partners. So they start their own firm. That is how the places are structured. Then
Yeah, maybe I'd like to ask a question here.
yes,
So,
sir.
you were talking about a lot of stress in the work and in both the litigation
Yeah.
and litigation part.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
based on your experience, I'm pretty sure you are already going through a lot of these things. So,
Yes.
can you give a few tips on how you manage this kind of a scenario? Because I mean, our audience being a lot of youngsters,
Yeah.
they would definitely would like to know the tricks of the thing so that they don't get put off by the burden.
Yeah. That's why I'm emphasizing right from the beginning on internships. Once they intern, they will know how it is like, and it is something which is not taught. It is one has to experience it by themselves. How to
Right.
manage the workflow, how to manage how to manage if there is you are anticipating too much of a work coming, you should be ready for it. You should already have done the work that was at the hand, so that you don't get unnecessarily burdened because of the increased workflow. All this thing one can learn only by practicing, only by actually putting their boots on the ground. So, which is why I'm emphasizing on the internships. So because
Yeah, that's a
internships,
very, very good point, I guess.
yeah,
Internship is the key to all these things.
yes, yes, yes. Uh, uh, I think I have explained a fair bit about the profession and the how it works in the insider's view, that I can call it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Could,
in the hierarchies, I think I also have mentioned. A non-litigation field itself has many varieties. Okay, so there is capital markets, there is corporate, there is taxation, there is admiralty, which is not much in India. Maritime, the shipping related laws, there is aviation, there is okay. There is this recently, very recently learned there is a firm in Delhi, and this firm advises Indian Space Research Organization ISRO on space laws. Now, I'm pretty sure 98, 99%, even among the lawyers, have not heard about the space laws, but it exists there. So there
Okay.
are also these niche areas, very unconventional areas where one can practice into. In India, there are not many niche areas, but if one goes abroad, then that is where the learning abroad comes in picture. Uh, some of the top law schools, I think I have already covered it. There is a National Law School, Bangalore, Nalsara, Hyderabad, NUJS at Kolkata. Pune Symbiosis is a very good law school. One should definitely try for it for Symbiosis. ILS is also a law school where I passed from, but it is more on the conventional side. They also have good certification programs as well, I believe, because it was still at my time. So even today, it must be there. Some of the legal luminaries that I can recount at this point who in the profession is Mr. Ram Jetpalani. Every lawyer, I believe, in the country, for him, he's like a patron saint of the law in the recent times. So he has solved some biggest cases in the country, like Harshad Mehta's Ketan Parekh, Fuji Spectrum scam, and name the case he was there. He practiced well into his 90s. I believe at the age of 97, he stopped his practice, 96 or 97. I'm not very sure. In the ripe age of 96, and he commanded the court. Best experience. I have seen him arguing in the Supreme Court, at the High Court, Bombay High Court as well. A great father figure to the legal professionals, and left behind a great legacy. Mr. Harish Salve is there. I guess a lot of Indians have heard him. One, because of the Kulbhushan Jadhav case, he is representing India in the International Court of Justice. See, these are the role models for the new people, for the lawyers who want to enter in this profession. And there are a lot of them. Nani Palkhiwala, who was Indira Gandhi's lawyer, who also was the Attorney General of India. Attorney General is basically the government's lawyer. In the one thing I forgot to, there are Mr. Fali Nariman is there. There are a lot of legal luminaries. One thing I forgot to mention is one of the good career options is also becoming judge. So after how one can become a judge is, it is a fantastic career. It gives a lot of respect in the society. It has good salaries. How one can become a judge is after 5 years or whatever, 3 years completion of course, the law course. After one gets LLB, one can appear for the exams of judicial magistrate first class, which is the lowest in the hierarchy of the judges. And after the passing of the exam, one can become judge. Highly competitive, I must say. So I believe recently they have one waived off the requirement of minimum practice. So I think it is before the 25. Someone has come to finish their law before 25, then they can directly appear for the examination without requirement of the practice. However, after the age of 25, I believe there is some 2 3 years of practice is required. Then if someone misses that chance, or some not interested in becoming judge at the threshold, then at the outside, then what they can do is, like, they can practice for 7 years, and on the completion of the age of 35, they can appear for the examination of the district judge. District judge is the head of the district, a very revered post, commands a lot of respect, a lot of responsibility as well. So for that they can try, or they can try to become High Court judge by appearing in the High Courts or Supreme Court for 15 straight years. Again, the age of completion is 35 years. High Court judge is, it's a constitutional post. Lot of respect. The high judgments of the High Courts and Supreme Court become law. That itself will speak about what the position is all about. Another career opportunity is the in-house lawyers, which I forgot to mention. What is an in-house lawyer? So, in-house lawyer is someone who works with a company. So, in a lot of companies, a lot of big companies, MNCs, and even the small companies, they need lawyers for their day-to-day work. because they cannot, for every small thing, it becomes difficult for them to approach a private lawyer or law firm. So they have their banks also. They have their own team of lawyers working in the company. Good remuneration, good pay packages, and they also give good work experience. So that is also an option for lawyers to work in companies. There is a good demand for lawyers as well. Banks hire lawyers, and banks have dedicated legal teams, big legal teams. Banks like ICICI Bank, HDFC, have their big legal teams. Then another career opportunity is in academia. So people can one can practice, one can study the law. Masters required degrees, I guess, minimum requirement for academia. After they have done with their masters, they can appear for the net set examinations. I guess they can also go for PhD, and they can start teaching the law. So they can start teaching the law in various law schools across the country. If they do the foreign LLM, I know some people who did that, and the foreign PhDs, and they can appear in they can start working. They can work as professors in the foreign universities as well. I have seen that as well. There are many careers. There are endless opportunities, literally. So I guess I have pretty much summed up. If there is any question, I would like to. Is there any question?
Uh, there have been any questions so far from the audience, but I think I have been interrupting and asking you quite a lot
Yes.
of questions.
Yes.
So I think let's probably keep, we will move on, and we'll see if any questions come by. We could probably come back.
Yes. Yes. Sure. Sure. Sure.
So over to you, Ishan.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes, we can.
Okay. So first of all, I would like to thank Dheya, the host, for giving me this opportunity to speak to such a great audience. I think 12th standard students and undergraduates, most of them. So I would really like to thank you for that. So first of all, I would like to start with a small advice that if you're getting into a career, make sure you're getting into the right career. Something that you actually love doing, something that you have grown up liking, something that you have grown up around. So that every day when you wake up, you should be excited to go to work, not just like, "Arey, yaar, aaj kaam jana hai, nahi jana hai." It should not be like that. The moment you get out of bed, it should be, okay, let's go to work. I have this work to do. Let's do this and let's finish this off. And you should be looking forward to go to work actually. So for me, that has always been law, but it was not easy to figure that out. So step by step, I'll explain you how I got into the field of law, which colleges I went to, what exactly did I do, all the internships that I did, and then slowly I'll gradually go on to what I'm doing right now, and then what are my future plans. So, sir, you can interrupt me anytime with any questions if there are any, or your questions, of course.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks.
Yes. So first of all, I'll start with I'll go a little back when I was in 11th standard, around 2012, 11, 12, around then. So back then, I was not sure what I
Could
wanted to
you, Ishan, sorry to interrupt. Could you just start
Yes.
with a couple of lines on what you're currently doing, so that audience gets insight?
Okay, sure, sir. So currently, I recently finished my LLM in criminal law, specializing in white collar crimes from India itself, Amity University, Jaipur. So I finished that. I recently got back to Kolhapur, which is my hometown, and right now I'm working in a law firm, which is I come from a law family. I'm a fourth generation lawyer as such. So I'm working under my dad for now because of this pandemic. I can't go outside and work too much. And I'm pretty sure I want to get into the litigation side of law. So I'll talk mostly about that and what litigation side of law and IPR and criminal law mainly. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And right now I'm currently working in the law firm with my dad. And yes, there's some court sessions going on. There's a lot of filing of IPR going on, intellectual property. So yeah, that's about it. What I'm doing right now, and in the future, I think after a year or two practice in the district court level in Kolhapur, uh, the if when I get enough confidence to argue in front of a higher bench of a higher authority, I plan on going to Bombay and start working in the Bombay High Court, maybe litigation side again. So that's my plan for now. So I'll just dive back down again to 11th standard, where I was not sure what I wanted to do. So I had chosen the field. I had just to be on the safer side and to keep many options open. I had chosen the field of science. in 11th standard. So when I started getting into science, I think I had chosen biology as a subject before. Within 2 months of getting into 11th standard, I realized, okay, biology is not for me. So I dropped biology. I picked up computer science then, and I was not that great in physics, chemistry, maths, and it was a worrying situation in our house that time. Ki, what is he going to do? What is his career going to be? So that's when I think I came to the host. They are career counselors that time. I think my counselor was Anand sir at that point. So I did a lot of aptitude tests, etc. So some key features that came out in my tests were I was a very patient guy, kind of introvert, had a good communication skill, and liked interacting with people, understood people. I had a very good listening skill. So if you check all these skills, it certainly points out one of the pointers was he can be good in the career of law. And after that, considering that I would be the fourth generation lawyer, so that was the correct option. So around 11th stand by the end of 11th standard, I was pretty sure I wanted to get in the field of law. So next thing what I did was I made out a list of all the top law colleges in India. So the top five government law colleges in India comprise of National Law School Bangalore, National Law School Hyderabad, Nalsar. Then there's one in Orissa, there's one in Chennai, I guess, and ILS, I think another one of the top law schools. These are the government ones. I made that list. And the second list which I made was the top law colleges, private law colleges. So that comprised of Symbiosis Law College, Army Law Institute, Mohali, Jindal Global Law School, Christ University, Bangalore, etc. So on and so forth. And I started preparing for the CLAT, which is Common Law Entrance Test, conducted by the National Law School category. So I started preparing for CLAT. So if you prepare for CLAT, you kind of prepare for all the entrance exams related to law out there in India, I think. So there's some disturbance. Sorry. So you kind of prepare for the whole all the law entrance exams out there, and so later on after that I started. So once the forms started getting out, I started applying to many law colleges. So I had applied to Symbiosis Law College, I had applied to Christ Law University, I had applied to Mohali Law Institute, so on and so forth. So I had applied to around four of the top five private law colleges. And as I was appearing for CLAT, I was going through all the national law colleges anyway. But at the end of the day, after giving exams, etc., I didn't score that well in CLAT. So, and I got chosen into Symbiosis Law School and Christ Law University, Bangalore. And finally, after a lot of deliberation with my parents, with Anand sir, etc., it was decided that I was going to join Christ University, Bangalore. So that's where I headed off for my 5-year BA LLB course. So, but nowadays a lot of colleges, like Onkar sir said, a lot of law colleges offer various type of combination courses for 5 years. So one of them is BA LLB, one of them is BBA LLB, BSc LLB, BCom LLB. That's the four at least on the top of my head. So BCom LLB again. So sorry, why I was pushed towards BA LLB because my background was from science. If your background is from commerce side, it would be preferable that you do a BBA LLB course, because BBA LLB has subjects like accounting, microeconomics, macroeconomics, which you have already studied in your 11th, 12th science side, commerce side. So you can be more inclined towards that and it will be better for you. So, but Christ University suggested me that I do BA LLB because I'm of science background and BBA will be tough for me. So that's how it goes. And usually in the 5-year course, first 2 years of your law school are just about mainly focused on the BA part of, like, at least for me, it was a BA part of the degree. So the first 2 years you wind up your BA degree. So I had subjects like literature, political science 2. I think I had one subject for economics also. And you have very few subjects of law. So that's the 2 years you get interacting with students, interacting with teachers in your law school. That's the 2 years you get to figure out what side of law or what field of law you're more inclined towards. So how I figured out I was more inclined towards litigation was via internships. Again, like Omkar sir said, internships are very important part of your law school. If you of your law career, to figure out which side of law exactly you want to go into. So first of all, my first internship was in a small NGO. Oh, and by the way, I forgot. So if you do a 5-year BA LLB or any integrated honors course in LLB, there's a 21-week mandatory internship period suggested by Bar Council of India. So that is a must. You have to complete 21 to 22 weeks of internship in 5 years, 5 years course. So what my university, Christ University, used to suggest is that every year they used to tell us to do minimum of minimum of 1 month to maximum of 2 months of internship. So that was usually after Diwali, when the courts reopened after Diwali. They used to give us off time to go and work, or work under a lawyer, work in a firm, etc., explore everything. And you could obviously do your summer internships again if you wish to. That was the procedure we followed in Christ University. So second of all, then my first internship was in a small NGO in Kolhapur. They suggest my college used to suggest that first internship should be in a small place, because you're not you're a very immature person in the field of law in the first year. You have zero knowledge about law. So that's where my first internship was, a small NGO where I used to manage files and look at the small legal proceedings that the NGO was taking through, etc. So that internship, okay, it was a good internship, but it didn't help me a lot, thinking about it now. And internship which came was second internship I did was a corporate internship. Like sir explained, the corporate side of law. It was a corporate internship in Bangalore itself. In Bangalore itself. Sorry, in Bangalore itself, where I interned in a big law firm called Anupesha Law Firm, who mainly dealt with property matters and big builder companies in Bangalore itself. So that internship was also great, but I kind of figured out that okay, maybe this corporate side is not the right side for me, because there were long hours and all day. I could not sit in the office all day. I could sit at one place for a long time, like I do today. Today also, like I can sit at one place for a long time, but long place in the same place for a long time, it does not just work with me very well. So that was my second internship. My third year internship, that's when I started my litigation internship. I interned in Bombay High Court under an advocate called Ashutosh Kumbhakoni. He's a senior counsel. So I interned under him. That's when I figured out, okay, this is maybe the side for me where I should go. And in the third year, while interning in the Bombay High Court, that's when I figured, okay, this is the right field for me. Law is the thing I want to do, because there used to be this rush you get, like an adrenaline rush when I used to go to courts every day, accompanying my senior counsel for arguments, etc. There's a slight rush which you get when you go to the court, and that rush has to be. If you get that rush, that means you are set for law, and law is the right field for you. And later on, when I went ahead, my internship again I did with the same advocate, but at that point of time he was Advocate General of Maharashtra. So Advocate General of any state is basically a person. Every state has a Advocate General. Advocate General is a constitutional post. So Advocate General is a person who is a lawyer for the state or for the government. So Advocate General of Maharashtra means you're advocate for state government of Maharashtra. So if any important cases which has the name state of Maharashtra versus ABC XYZ, whatever you want to call it. So if it is an important case, it is always sent to the Advocate General, and the Advocate General represents the state of Maharashtra in the courts. So that's where I did my fourth year internship, which was again amazing, and I was even more confident that I want to join the litigation side of law. And then slowly again in fifth year I started applying for many internships, because fifth year internship needs to be kind of a very important, because that's when you're pretty mature in law. You know all the laws, you know how to interpret the laws, you know how to read the laws. So that's when you kind of figure out what. So fifth year internship is considered one of the most important internships in your law school. So my fifth year internship, I started applying to. I wanted to intern in the Supreme Court, so I started applying to many places in Supreme Court itself, and luckily I got accepted by a still sitting judge of the Supreme Court, Justice Uday Umesh Lalit. He's from Maharashtra itself. So luckily I got accepted for internship there. And those 2 months in Delhi, going every day to his chambers, going every day to the court, were just amazing. That's where the country is working, that's where the judiciary of the country is working. And getting to sit in the first row as the intern of the judge, and getting to listen to many of the senior advocates argue in various matters, like privacy matters, then reservation matters. I heard almost every day I used to hear a new senior counsel argue, which was a turning point. I was like, I want to be them. I want to be one of them. So that's where I started getting my ambition of going and starting to work in the High Court maybe. And then after the High Court, maybe my ambition is actually to become a senior counsel. And have that charisma in the court that a senior counsel has today. That charisma is completely different. So in high courts, how do you differentiate between normal counsel and senior counsel? It's a very interesting fact, and it's a very fun fact to know. So in high courts, all the lawyers have to wear gowns. So, and senior counsel, people who are designated as senior counsels have a very different gown. Their gown which they wear is not like a general lawyer. It has a box in the back, and it has long ropes coming out of the sleeves. So that's how you differentiate between a normal counsel gown and a senior counsel gown. And once, like, the senior counsel gown, if you own it, you get A1 respect in the courts. And that charisma they have when they're walking with their juniors is just something different. And when you look at them, you're like, okay, I want to be that one day. So that's the litigation side of law. Of course, the senior people working in the law firm or in the corporate side of law can't be designated as senior counsel as such. That's according to law again. Furthermore, then after my 5th year internship, I was pretty much sure I wanted to get into litigation. Then but I still wanted to pursue my LLM because I just wanted to have LLM below my name on my card or outside my house. I wanted to have LLM below my name. It was kind of an ambition because my ambition, I think Anand sir, when we first met, he said, I think he was the one who told me by 23 to 24, you should have at least 2 degrees in the field of law if you're going to do law. So you have to do LLM. So then I started looking at my LLM options. I again contacted Anand sir and many other counselors there. And I kind of started getting ideas about should I go outside India and do LLM or should I do in India LLM. But I was sure I was going to join the litigation side of law, where the college you do your LLM from does not matter as much as in corporate law. Corporate law, if you have a degree of LLM from outside India, of course it matters a lot in litigation also, but it has a little bit more importance in the corporate side of law. So in the litigation side of law, I finally started doing started looking at options, etc. So how I looked for the options was I started going through colleges. I went on their websites, and on the websites there's a option where you go and you can see the course plan of the college, the curriculum of the LLM. So that's how you know, like, obviously there's a specialization. So my college offered many specializations like constitutional law, intellectual property law, family law, criminal law, etc. So, but the most appealing one to me was criminal law. So that's how I decided to do criminal law, because I wanted to study about white collar crimes in depth a little bit. And that's how LLM helped me. And I think someone in the previous, when Omkar Sam was presenting, someone asked a question that how is it okay if, how does it work if I do the LLM in the UK and if I come back to India, how does it apply, if I'm not wrong? Someone asked that question. So to answer that question, I would just like to add a little bit to what Omkar sir said. In LLM, they don't teach you laws as such. They don't have a bare act in front of you and they teach you. In LLM, they teach you principles of law. And principles of law are usually the same in most of the countries. Like most of the UN countries registered to the UN, they follow the same convention. They're part of the same convention. They have a very similar kind of law. So that's how it works. When you learn the principle of law, you get to know why the law is made in the first place. And that's how you build up on your skill to argue in court, at least for the litigation side. That's how you build up on your skill to argue in court or argue in front of a court, because of the principles you study while doing LLM. So if you want to get in depth of the law and why the law was made, on what principle the law is based, I would always suggest that you have to do LLM. And this thing, and I'm not a big believer of, sorry to say this, Omkar sir, but I'm not a big believer of going outside India and working as a lawyer. See, outside India, obviously there are a lot of opportunities in law outside India also, but in India there's humongous scope for law, and humongous in the sense you can pursue anything you want. You can work from working in a think tank to working as a teacher to working as a litigation to working in corporate law to working as an advisor to a wealthy man, maybe to working as an advisor to banks to working in cooperative societies. The scope is humongous. So obviously going outside also the scope is humongous, but I think we as Indians, we have a small duty to stay in India and maybe improve the stature of law in India and improve the laws in India. So I'll just talk a little bit about what opportunities.
So Ishan,
Yes,
I think we have Rudra also waiting for us. So maybe
sorry, sir.
If you could,
of course, sir.
Yeah, thanks. Quickly, if you could come to your opportunities briefly and Ishan.
Sorry, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Could you just talk about the opportunities quickly, and so
Of
that we
course,
can.
sir. No, Omkar sir has covered most of it. So I was going to talk about categories of criminal law, categories of law. Like there's upcoming opportunities in the field of law, space law, sports law. There is intellectual property has a huge scope, and like every big sports team or every big sports conglomerate needs the legal department nowadays to deal with their IPR, to deal with their logos, to deal with their other many other things. There's a still huge scope and big loopholes in family law, because family law is improving and changing every day as the world changes. Women are getting more rights, and because of that, the laws are changing, and because of that, litigation is increasing in that part. There's a lot of interpretation still left to do in family law, like, or in the civil law or in criminal law. There are a lot of loopholes, and there's a lot of scope for litigation in that. So that's my part. Over to Rudra sir.
Hello, am I audible? Yeah, so thank you so much, Anand sir. Thank you so much, Ishant, and of course, thank you so much, Omkar sir. It's a very difficult task following so many distinguished speakers, but I'll still try my best. So William Shakespeare in Henry VI said that if you want to make the world a better place, kill all the lawyers. So unfortunately, when we are talking about law, that is the first quote that comes to the mind of many people. Also, many people are quick to point out that the word lawyer and liar sound very similar. Perhaps that is why many share the belief that to be a good lawyer, one has to be dishonest to the court. These and other such misconceptions, I believe, drive people away from joining the legal profession. So today, I will be working on busting some of these myths probably and helping you out in making an informed career choice. So namaste, I am Rudra Devasai. I am currently a fifth year law student at Nalsar University of Law, Hyderabad. I have been placed in a solicitor firm in Bombay in last year, and I want to talk. I have divided my address in three parts. I want to talk about my experience in law school in the first part. In the second part, I'll bust some myths and I'll give some advice about how to choose your career option. And in the third part, I'll talk about if law is meant for you, how you should analyze if law is meant for you. So, yeah, I've been so at this juncture. I believe it is important to give a caveat that I am a very junior professional in the legal domain. So, any advice I give should be taken with a pinch of salt, and no decision should be made solely based on this particular session. Other sessions should also be taken into consideration, and of course, Anand sir's advice. So today I've been given a very wide mandate. I'll try to do my best and do justice to that wide mandate. First of all, beginning with the first session, I'd like to talk about why and when I decided to join the legal profession. So I decided to join my legal profession in my third standard. That was a very early step for me. There were two reasons for it. I was fascinated by history, especially the Indian freedom struggle. And as Omkar sir has pointed out, most of our prominent freedom fighters were lawyers by training. Like Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, everyone, mostly all of them were lawyers by training. That fascinated me a lot. And that kind of got me into thinking if I should be a lawyer because I was interested in politics. The second most important influence on me was of my uncle, who's Advocate Mahesh Bhagwat. He's a prominent tax practitioner. He's working in Pune even today. So he was a big influence on me, and that's why I selected the field of law. That's why I said I want to work in the field of law. So I had decided that I want to pursue law in my third year, but I didn't take any effective steps towards it. I just left off on it. I used to tell people I want to do law, and that was about it. I really started to take some effective steps towards it in my 10th standard after I cleared my 10th board exams. In that board exams, I had scored fairly well. At that point, many people were quick to suggest that you should take up engineering, you should take up science, but I dismissed all of those claims. I went to commerce side. I did my best in my 12th boards, and that is when I found out about CLAT. CLAT is an acronym for Common Law Aptitude Test. Ishan has mentioned it briefly in his address. I'll try to cover up a bit more of it. So, Common Law Aptitude Test is basically a test which is conducted for the top law schools in the country. The top law schools, like the IITs and IIMs for engineering and management respectively, are schools meant for lawyers. So that those are law universities. So Nalsar, according to the NIRF ranking or the other rankings, Nalsar is the third best law schools, if you wish to believe that, in India. And if you want to take admission in NLS Bangalore or Nalsar or NUJS or other such NLUs, you have to give CLAT. If you want to take admission in NLU Delhi, the exam you need to appear for is ILET, All India Law Entrance Exam. So that is the exam you need to get into admission into. Now I like to spend two more minutes on the point about why choosing a good law school is very important. So basically it is my opinion that in law school you don't study the law per se, you study the art of the interpretation of law. You study how to think. That is the most important part about being in a law school. Apart from the name of a national law university, the soft skills you learn in a law school are very important, which will help you throughout your profession. That is why going into a good law school at an early stage is very important. Now, of course, going into an NLU opens up various horizons for you, gives you new ideas, and like prepares you for a legal career on a global platform. And what global opportunities are available to you, I'll be coming to it in the next session. So after this, I like to begin the second session, which is the session of Mythbusters. So I believe that many people are stopped from pursuing the legal profession, even though many people want to, because there are some myths in the minds of people, because the pop culture has created an image of lawyers which is not consistent with the reality. So first thing, of course, the first myth which I mentioned earlier, that lawyers are extremely dishonest. Lawyers work basically involves lying by any means possible and saving your clients by any means possible. So I like to bust this myth. This is not true. A lawyer's work is not lying. A lawyer's work is actually helping out the court in discerning the truth and administration of justice. So how does a lawyer do that? How does a lawyer do that? So a lawyer basically does that by presenting the best possible legal arguments, by presenting it, by applying the law to his client's fact in the best possible manner and trying to convince the judge that his side is appropriate. That doesn't mean that the lawyer goes outside the scope of law. Everything has to be done within a set scope of law. If a lawyer is actually not allowed to lie in a court of law, and his reputation is tarnished greatly if he is caught in a lie, obviously. So his reputation is tarnished greatly. So a great part of lawyer's life is not all about lying. It's about presenting your arguments in a efficient manner and convincing the judge that you are right. Of course, lying in court is called perjury and it is a crime, so many people don't do that. But that is not to say that there aren't bad apples in this profession as well, as there are bad apples in other profession also. So please be careful, please be mindful of the fact that being a lawyer doesn't mean that you have to be good at lying. It actually helps if you are honest and if you are hardworking. So the second myth which I'd like to bust today is law only people who are good for nothing or could not get admission anywhere else go to law. So like some people in our audience are 12th standard students, and I'm sure many of their parents might have told them that if you can't do anything else, take admission in a law school. Well, that attitude towards law is frankly very outdated and archaic and doesn't belong in today's world. Why am I saying that? Now, earlier in our parents' generation, that was a trend that anyone who cannot be an engineer or who cannot be a doctor took admission in a law school and became a lawyer. Now, I don't know the reasons for it. I have jotted down some probable reasons for it. So, firstly, because there was no cutoff for law school, then law schools were only offering a 3 year law course, which was after graduation. So, even if you haven't figured out what you're doing in graduation, you should take admission in a law school and become a lawyer. That was a trend earlier. But that is not the trend today. The trend today in the world of NLUs, in the world of foreign universities, and in the world of globalization, that is not the trend today. I'm sorry to burst this bubble. So the why is the reason why am I saying this? Because like IITs and IIMs, we today have NLUs, which are highly competitive law schools where highly competitive students take admission. So you have to give the common law admission test, and if you want to get into a good NLU, your rank has to be somewhere in the top 200s out of the 1 lakh or 1.5 lakh odd students which take part in the common law aptitude test. Secondly, most important point, because of the great Professor Madhav Menon, we have a 5 years law school in India now. The 3 years law school is growing more and more obsolete by the day, and 5 years law school is the norm of the day. Now, because we have a 5 years law schools, people like me who have decided earlier about that they are going to become a lawyer take admission into 5 years law school straight away after 12th. So we are not trained in any other discipline but law. All our attention is focused on law. We devote 5 years of our life to studying this particular discipline. 5 years is half a decade. It's not a small amount of time. Third important thing which I have noticed in my law school is that many people, like almost all of my batchmates, were toppers in their respective school. No one is such who had this attitude towards law that, okay, I didn't get anything else, so that's why I'm going into law school. All of them were toppers. All of them consciously made the choice of taking an admission in law school. And now, because of higher degrees and because of globalization, highly competitive people are getting interested towards law, and of course, because of the good pay. The third point, which I'd like to bring, which is most relevant for people in this webinar, is like wearing a black coat is the only option after law school. So Onkar sir and Ishan have spoken extensively on this issue. So I won't repeat all of those things again. As they have said, I'll just list out a few things which they have mentioned and then go to my specific address, which are only 2 points. So basically, you don't have to wear a black coat after you become a lawyer. Black coat meaning you don't have to enter just litigation after you become a lawyer. In this area of globalization, there are many more opportunities which is available. Firstly, as Omkar sir and Ishan have mentioned, corporate law firms. So the advantages of going in a corporate law firms are many. Firstly, you get an opportunity to work in a corporate law setting if anyone is interested in that, and plus you get very good salaries. So I
Rudra,
won't.
sorry to interrupt. If we can actually quickly go through, I think we are running out of time. So maybe get to your points
Yeah,
quickly.
okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. I won't mention other things which other speakers have mentioned. I'll just like to mention two areas which I think they have just glossed over and not mentioned
Yeah,
properly.
that'll
One
be good. Yeah.
important thing, yeah, one important area, actually three areas. So one important area which people might be interested in is working in international institutions like the UN, Interpol, and all of these bodies. So these bodies are also growing more and more interested into hiring lawyers from India. Of course, they prefer if you have some additional degrees, but I know some people. I have alumni from my college who are working in these bodies. Secondly, policy research. The trend of think tanks is growing extensively in India. For example, the Vidhi Center for Legal Policy in Delhi, or CLPR in Delhi, is doing some good work when it comes to policy research. So you have good pay in policy research and think tanks as well, and you can think of pursuing that. Academia, considering the new economic policy, the new educational policy of 2020, which was introduced 3 days ago, in which foreign universities were allowed to establish campuses in India, academia might actually be a very good option for lawyers to pursue. Okay, so these are the points which one should also consider. Also, we should consider the allied areas with law which one can think about. The two most important which I can think of is public service or giving UPSC examination. There you have an edge in legal service and everything. And secondly, politics. As I mentioned earlier, like many of our freedom fighters were lawyers, and even the last president of USA, Barack Obama, he was also a lawyer by training. So it gives you an edge in pursuing a career in politics as well. Of course, you need many more talents for that, but yeah, I believe law might be one of those talents. So, yeah, this is all it for my prepared addresses now. So yeah, I think that is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rudra. I think we had a very good mix of experiences and information being shared, starting with Onkar sir talking a lot about his practices, coming with a lot of experience in the legal firm as an independent attorney. He shared a lot of insight into what actually the practice of law is all about. Then we had Ishan talking about his experience of uh, choosing the right career, how choosing the right substream of law, and how he actually got into the how what he drove him to the LLM, and how important LLM is all about. And the icing on the cake, of course, was actually what Rudra was talking about as a student, his experience. I think it was very good in that sense. Um, so actually, any questions that we have from the audience at this point, we could actually quickly take up at thing. So uh, we have some poll that has actually been shared. If you could, the audience, if you could actually take a minute off and just help us with the poll, that could actually that will be a feedback. But you don't need to stop raising questions if you have any. If you have any, we could quickly take a couple of questions for any of our panelists. Okay, thank you all. I don't think that any questions are forthcoming now, so I think we should probably wind up the session here. Thank you very much, Mr. Onkar sir, Rudra, and Ishan for joining us for this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.